All right, what's up, everybody? Good morning. It's Tuesday, full speed ahead. I got JMart with me. We're going to get right into it, man. First, we got to talk about last week. Obviously, you were right about one and wrong about the other. So let's just start there. And then I want to talk football for this upcoming week. We got Ravens Chiefs on Thursday, Eagles Packers in Brazil somehow. Who knows? And then full slate Saturday and Sunday. But yeah, let's start. Let's just get it out of the way. Would you still bet Florida this week? Or is it just a huge talent difference? What happened in that game? Florida.
I thought Florida was going to have a good season. I thought this was a game that, with a really hard schedule, I think the hardest in college football, they were going to come out strong and win. It turns out that the talent is not there in any way the way I thought the talent was going to be there for them. And Miami has brought it this year. I think Miami is a really good team this year.
So the thing that I like to ask, and this is going to be the main conversation that we have each week, is when you get a game wrong, did something change? Like if they play again next week, you're like, hey, you know what? I think the ball just bounced a little funny. I still like Florida. Or is it like, hey, if you're wrong about it, why were you wrong? So we can learn from it. So it sounds like you just overestimated Florida's talent or underestimated Miami's talent.
I heavily overestimated Florida's talent and heavily underestimated Miami's talent too. I completely missed it. I don't like betting heavy on a team that has just brought in a good quarterback and just being like, oh, well, they have a quarterback now, so they're just automatically going to be an elite team. Miami did the legwork outside of the quarterback position. They looked really solid on defense. They looked unstoppable on offense against a Florida team that you thought would be at least able to get a couple solid stops. They've moved the ball at will against Florida and stopped Florida from moving the ball at all.
Does it make you feel like you want to fade Florida or ride Miami, or you just think it was a really bad matchup for Florida?
Well, the thing is it was a home game for Florida against an in-state rival. You thought they would have brought it to the best level they can. You're listening to the coach in press conferences kind of talk bad on the team and the fans. Florida, it looks like they look pretty dead in the water this year. It's going to take a lot for them to just completely step back.
It's impossible to recruit. And when you lose a game like that, like in the state of Florida, it's always a battle, right? Like Miami, Florida State. And then you got the other universities always trying to poach. And when you get your ass kicked like that, you're trying to tell a 16, 17-year-old kid in high school, hey, come be a part of the rebuild in Florida. It was a disaster of a game. But let's flip it the other way, because you were 100% right about Georgia. Did Georgia have 14 guys on the field on defense? Like, what's going on? It feels like every time Clemson, like there's nothing for Clemson. Georgia's defense was suffocating. What was your takeaway from that game? More of a reflection on Georgia's defense, or just Clemson's not very good?
Well, I expected Georgia's biggest weakness on defense to be coverage. I thought the defensive backs, outside of Malachi Starks, were going to struggle a little bit, because I expected Cade Klubnik to at least produce something positive on offense. It never happened. They had a little bit of an adjustment early in the third quarter that got them 3 points, but there was nothing there. They could not move the football at all the entire game.
Who stood out for you in Georgia? As you're watching that game, Malachi Starks, the corner, he's going to be a top 10 pick probably. Was there anybody else that flashed on defense where you're like, oh, God, I didn't know he was that good?
KJ Bolden, he was a top recruit. Georgia poached him from Florida State last year in the class of 2024. True freshman playing, and he was making a very solid impact on defense. Had a chance to get an interception early. He was really good, and he's only a freshman. He's only like 18 years old.
Does that ever happen? Does true freshmen play in Georgia? Is that even a thing?
Malachi Starks played in 2021. That's when he got the interception against Oregon to start the game off. And then there was a guy, CJ Allen, last year, a linebacker, that was getting some minutes. It was hit or miss with him. It was more of a depth problem. But Georgia, if a true freshman's starting for Georgia or at least playing minutes, you know they're going to come in and make a serious impact, because it's a hard depth chart to just run up that quick.
Sure. So Georgia looked great. What else stood out to you? If I just said open-ended, your main takeaway, or whether it's a player, a team, positive or negative, what jumped out at you that maybe was a surprise on Saturday?
I think I heard a lot of Georgia fans not very happy with offensive play calling and the way the offense played in the first half. I think what Georgia fans have to realize is that it was a feel-out half. They realized that they were winning. They realized that they didn't have to try and stretch the ball. So they just tried to figure out what they could break away from the Clemson defense, and then not use it in the first half, not let Clemson see that yet, and just save it all for the second half. And that's exactly what they did. And a lot of Georgia fans aren't like for some reason, super thrilled about a 35-3 win. I think it's a perfect start to the season. I don't, there were some missed passes, but every game is going to have missed passes. I think it was overall just a phenomenal.
Yeah, Carson Beck, the quarterback, acknowledged that there was nerves. He made it seem like it was on him. I thought it was it was a dramatic performance by Georgia for sure, a dominating performance. Excuse me. What else? I thought the main thing for me, and I wanted to get your take on this Michigan-Texas game, because Texas. I know Jack. I believe he had Colorado State getting points, and I read a lot of places. Maybe it was because Colorado State had new uniforms or whatever, but it was a popular pick amongst a few people that I follow for college football. But yet Texas kicked their ass. Michigan, and on the flip side, starts a walk-on quarterback. He's got a really interesting story. His last name is Warren. He beats out the kid Ojiri,
something like that.
He gets the nod. He starts for Michigan. Michigan basically plays the same exact way they did the past couple of years. They went 30-10, and now Michigan plays Texas. It's not the same because of the playoffs, but you can lose this game and still make the playoffs for sure. But what a leg up this would be. It gives you some room for air down the stretch. What was your takeaway from Texas? And then how do they match up against Michigan? Is Michigan going to beat them up? Because I feel like most people want to take Texas. I'm going to double check the line as you're giving me your analysis here.
I think Texas offensively is going to be – Michigan has an incredible defense. They always do. Texas's offense is one of the best in college football, period, this year. They're up there, I think, with like the Ole Misses of the world, and like I would have said like an Ohio State or Oregon, but they kind of struggled out of the gate a little bit. But it's going to be really hard for Michigan to just stop Texas enough that they can score themselves on offense. They don't have a super explosive offense, so it's going to be really difficult for them to stop.
Sorry to cut you out. I couldn't believe it. The lines makers, I guess they agree with you that Texas is favored by 7.5, but the game's in Michigan. So is that but that seems to be your takeaway, is that just Michigan's not going to be able to keep up? What's Texas's go-to on offense? Like where's their bread buttered? Do they spread it out? I know yours is a top quarterback, but what's Texas?
I think it's a spread offense because they got Isaiah Bond from I think he was at Bama last year. Who's like a super fast, really explosive receiver. I think he's the one that caught the pass that they in the Auburn game that won them the game. So I think they're a super.
That fourth end. Oh, God, that was crazy.
So I think he's the kid from that. So I think they're a super explosive offense and just always looking for the dynamic play, kind of a Sarkisian style of offense. And it's just tough to shut down a team like that when you don't really have the offense to really compete with them. And I don't feel like Michigan has the offense that can go toe to toe with Texas on a all things even kind of situation.
That's going to be a great game. That game's at noon. Texas, Michigan, and that's what we're getting now with these playoffs. Is the sense of urgency might not be there early in the season, but you're getting high quality games now that you typically this would be like kind of throwaway games that each team would play. So that's exciting. But all right, let's do this. I need to run some things by it. Basically, you're my sounding board, my voice of reason this afternoon, because the NFL, there's nothing more important than starting off winning. Like, I mean, whether it's my business, whether you're gambling, the first week of the NFL season, it is a nightmare to be behind the 8 ball. It's hard enough to win as it is, but you have a tough week 1, and it can set you up for a disaster. So I'm going to run by a couple thoughts I have on some of these games, and I want you to chime in. Yeah, so here's the thing. I'm not betting the first 2 games. I 1,000% cannot bet the Ravens-Chiefs. No, I just can't do it. There's too emotional. I want your take on it. If I had to bet on it, if anybody's listening has to bet on it, because we're going to bet on the game. Like, people are going to bet something. How do you see this game playing out? So I think Ravens fans are, you can't analyze this game without analyzing what happened in the AFC Championship. But somebody like yourself, just a football fan, you see Derrick Henry's added. You see some of the things the Chiefs have done. What's your take on that game? And then follow that up with how do you see each team performing this season? Because I really don't have a thought on this one.
So the Ravens objectively got like a lot better on offense. Derrick Henry is huge for a team that already ran the ball. It felt like at will a lot last year. I think that's just going to get better for them. The Chiefs did get better. They added a bunch of receivers and stuff, but Hollywood Brown's hurt going into this game. He's, I think, out for the game already. And it is in Arrowhead. That's huge for Kansas City fans because they come out and it's going to be a tough place for the Ravens to play at. And that's, I think, why the odds are pretty. I think it's like 150 for the Chiefs compared to like a plus 125, I think, for the Ravens, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the reason for those odds. But ultimately, I think I just want, as a football fan, a good game. I want it to be like a 20s or 30s, both teams scoring that amount, and it's just them just going at each other. And it's really hard because it's week one to know which team is just going to step up more. I'd lean on like neutral field to say the Ravens because of the defense, but because it's in Kansas City, it becomes just an absolute toss-up.
Yeah. I think I want to make a future bet on the Ravens or the Chiefs after that game, like on whoever loses, like depending on how they lose, because I feel you'll just get better odds for them to win the division, win the conference, get the 1 seed. I remember doing that with the Chiefs last year when they lost to the Lions. I was like, I think now I'll just bet on the Chiefs. So, all right. Packers, Eagles, I can't bet on because I don't understand the line. I shouldn't say I don't understand the line, but I'm so down on the Eagles that I can't tell if I'm missing something. So I think I don't know if it was you or one of my friends that was talking about this the other day, but someone's got to sell me that the Eagles are going to win 13 games because everything going on there is just screaming we're going to start off to 3-4, 3-5, and then everything's going to implode. They don't have the center, Kelsey. Hurts, he wants to throw the ball. Look, I'm a Lamar. Every time Lamar is like, yeah, like throwing it from the pocket, every Ravens fan rolls their eyes. It's like, dude, just please run. And so Hurts is like, yeah, let's bring in Jahan Dotson. Let's spread it out. I got all these weapons. I don't see it, but I also could see them winning this game because it's in Brazil and it's just a weird game. But what's your thoughts on the Eagles this season? And then give me your 2 cents on the Packers.
Well, I mean, the Eagles offensively, like talent-wise, like bringing in Saquon Barkley makes them so much better that they're just pure talent level. It's going to be hard for them to not score points. With A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Hurts, Dotson, Dallas Goedert, I think is still there, and Saquon Barkley. So, like, that's a full skill position team that's just pretty great. Defensively, I think they're talented on defense, but they were last year, and it didn't make too much of a difference. So I don't know with the Eagles. I have no plans on betting on that game because it could literally go 4 different outcomes. It could be a close game for the Packers. They could blow them out. Eagles could win close, or the Eagles could blow them out. And in my head, because it's in Brazil, and I don't know how they're going to play in Brazil, it could literally go any direction possible.
So I feel that's the case with a lot of these games this weekend, but there's a couple strong opinions I have. So before I lock in my bets, now that we got those 2 games out of the way, let me work through my thoughts here and tell me what you're thinking. So if I go in order, the first thing that jumps out at me is this Jaguars-Dolphins game. And again, trying to play devil's advocate, I feel like the spread should be 6. It's only 3. It is now Jacksonville. It's not like it's cold in Jacksonville, but it's not like Miami. So it's still an adjustment to playing in that type of heat. I feel like everything that the Dolphins are good at works perfectly against the Jags. The Jags signed Eric Armstead in the offseason to try to improve the pass rush, try to improve stopping the run. I don't know how you prepare for the Dolphins. I feel like the Dolphins during the regular season, it's a nightmare because the speed, the motion. I love the Dolphins. I've seen in some places it was at 3.5. So obviously there's more money floating in on the Jaguars. I've talked about this at length. It doesn't mean smart money. It doesn't mean that people know what they're doing. But when the lines move, it simply means that more money's coming in. I like the Dolphins here. Am I missing something? I don't even know how the Jags win unless they just win 45-38. But I don't see how they're going to stop Miami.
I think, it would just come down to Tua having a bad game and the defense maybe just not being as good as people think the defense is going to be for Miami. Because, like, we all think it's just going to be we think it's going to be a good enough defense. Like, they have enough talent to make this team a very positive team this year. I don't know how the Jags win the game, to be completely honest, and that line's kind of ridiculously low for a Miami team. If you think Miami's going to win the game and you put the line at like -3, like it's like they cover that basically every game. Like,
they're saying it's an even game essentially. The Jags have a solid pass rush, and the Dolphins' offensive line is weak. I get that, but the Dolphins, Tua gets rid of the ball in a second, so I don't think that's going to matter. I hate when the Jags have to play from behind because Lawrence. I don't know. I'm not sold on it. I like the Dolphins. I don't think I need to see. That's one of those games where I think I know what I'm going to get right away. I see the Dolphins getting the lead. If I'm wrong about the game, it's because the Jaguars offense is super dynamic also. And then it comes to like a 50-50 game in the fourth quarter. But yeah, I might play it a little conservative and not give the 3 points in case that happens. But I like the Dolphins there. The next game is a 1000% stay away unless you're taking the Steelers. If you know anything about the Steelers and their fan base, that game in Atlanta is not a road game. That is a 50-50 environment. All those stupid yellow flags waving around. Russell Wilson has played in that stadium a million times. The Falcons just feel like they're going to lose that first game, and then maybe they'll get it together. I'm not betting money on the Steelers because that's against my rules of life. Steelers and Yankees, I can't put money down on them. But if you made me bet, I'd bet the Steelers, and I'll scream at people if they're betting the Falcons. Like, do not do that. That just feels like a game that Kirk Cousins throws 4 interceptions, and then they want to get rid of them. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, look, I'm from Georgia, so we're Falcons fans down here. I really like the Falcons team this year, and the Falcons fan base has been louder recently than it has been ever before. They've got this whole Dirty Birds thing going. It's getting fans in the stadium. But Falcons at plus money for week 1 against, like, the Steelers still win games. Like, it's like they could be they have not had talent for the past 2 seasons really at the quarterback position, and they still go out and get at least 500. So.
And their defense is healthy. Like, you have to get the Steelers Watts hurt and banged up. Dude, I think he's the best pass rusher that's not named Myles Garrett in the whole league.
I think I think he might be the best, like, the sack accumulator that we've seen since probably his brother.
He's fantastic. So it's 100% stay away. Vikings, Giants, for the obvious reasons that it's Sam Darnold versus Daniel Jones. I'm going to need to see if any of them have improved. If not, just feels like I could flip a coin. I'm also going to flip a coin. All right, let me say it like this. I really want to take the Patriots. If Belichick was coaching, I would just take the Patriots and be done with it. But I feel like the drop-off with the defense will be significant because Mayo is just not Belichick. The Bengals, though, I'm fading the Bengals this year. Jamar Chase hasn't practiced yet. Burrow's really got a weird injury with his wrist. I'm fading the Bengals, but I can't in good conscience put money on New England, even though 9 points seems like way too many. This one I got a strong opinion on. I got the Panthers. I'm fading the Saints this year. I like the Panthers. I love the idea of a team that's 1,000% doubted. Like, there's nobody. You can't find a friend, a family member, anybody that would be like, you know what I think is going to be great this year is the Panthers, right? There's a couple of teams where most people think they'll suck, like the Raiders, for example, but you can find somebody that says, I don't know, Minshew and the defense, Devontae Adams. But the Patriots, the Giants, and the Panthers, to me, are the 3 teams, as I'm saying it out loud, that just jump out. Maybe the Titans, but again, they got some talent where people are like, there's no way they could be good, which makes me think the Panthers will probably win 8 games. And the Saints suck. I'm ready for the Saints. If you can bet on the first coach to get fired, bet on it. Dennis Allen. I like the Panthers +4 a lot. You want to talk me out of it?
I love Panthers +4. I love their coaching hire. I thought it was the best hire that was out there. They went and got a guy called the QB Whisperer out there, Dave Canales. Mm-hmm. He turned around Geno Smith in Seattle first. Then he went over to Tampa, turned around Baker Mayfield's career. Bryce Young's good. He just didn't have anyone last year. And it's like you got to give a guy a chance with talent before you just write him off. They went out, got Deontay Johnson. I know he's old. Adam Thielen's also old, but they got stronger at running back. They drafted, I think Jonathan Brooks is who it is. They had Chuba Hubbard already, who's a really solid running back.
Their offensive line is pretty solid too.
Yeah, and they're a solid team. I think they're good enough that they can surprise a couple people early in the season.
If you games. Since you watched a lot of Bryce Young, if we swapped him out and put him on the Dolphins, would there be a drop off?
Probably not too much of one. Probably not.
I was gonna say we got to really be careful when you're watching these quarterbacks. Like if they don't have the tools around them, they're gonna look. I mean, I actually really like Bryce Young. I don't like Derek Carr. I don't like David Carr. I don't like the family. I don't like any of those Saints teams. I hate the Saints this year. I'm very much against the Saints. This next game, I really want to take the Titans. I don't think I'm gonna have the balls to do it, to be honest with you. But this is one of those games where you can't find anybody that doesn't want to take the Bears week 1. You find like different levels of how many people like of where they like the Bears. I know you're loyal to the Bears.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about this game. Like to me, Jeffrey Simmons is forcing like 2 fumbles. It's just gonna be a weird game. Chicago fans, maybe they win by 1 or 2 at the end, but I'm certainly not giving 4.5 points. And I would be tempted to throw the Titans into a teaser, like make them a 10.5 point favorite or 10.5 point underdog. What do you think? You think Bears kick their ass?
I'm probably fully off that game because I don't know what Will Levis is going to do. And he could either be really good or he could come out and throw 3 picks in the first half, and everyone's like, oh, Will Levis is Will Levis. So I'm gonna just hope the Bears win it. I might just put some money on like player props for that game, see if the offenses get going. But as far as spreads go for that, it's I don't know, it could go anywhere.
So the
Rookie
next
quarterback and a second-year quarterback in a game, it's like they can.
anything.
There's so much.
That's why I don't want to get. That's why you don't give the points. Like if you think anything can happen, then you don't say to yourself, "I'll give 4.5 points." Like that's a good rule of thumb. Is like if anything can happen, then let me lean towards the underdog. I don't know how to evaluate the Cardinals. I'm not high on the Bills. I just think that they need to rebuild. I actually wouldn't be surprised if they switch coaches. I think McDermott has a good defensive mind. I don't think he has a good command of the team. I thought they should have beat Kansas City last year. I don't know how Baltimore and Buffalo have a hard time coming back from last year because that was right there for them. This Cardinals team is weird. I don't know what to think of them. I'm having a hard time giving an opinion because I love the NFC West. I think the Rams are going to be really good, and I actually like the Seahawks to make the playoffs, and the Niners are there. What are your thoughts on the Cardinals and then specifically this game? Because I'm staying away from it, but I'm curious your thoughts.
I like the Cardinals offense. Like I like Kyler. I like Marvin Harrison. I like James Conner. But they had Kyler and James Conner last year, and it didn't really come together too much. And I don't think it's all going to be solved in the season. But the Bills, again, like I was talking about this with my friend, I think their wide receiver 1 is Keon Coleman. And he's probably
Shakir, but yeah.
Yeah, and then you think about the passing options. He's probably the 3rd highest on the hierarchy because you got James Cook and you have Dalton Kincaid. And if they don't have legitimate receiving options, which it's hard to say that they do right now, you gotta at least be able to pass the ball a little bit. And like Josh Allen's incredible, but he's gonna have to force the ball even more this year than years past. He was already interception prone, probably interception prone again this year. It's it is a game that the Cardinals could possibly win just because I don't know what the Bills are really doing this year offensively.
Yeah, I think you typically don't like taking the West Coast teams at the 1 o'clock start, but when it's opening week, it's a little bit different because they're able to prepare. Their bodies are tired from the week before. So I don't know how much of an impact that's going to have. I do think the best game on Sunday that I won't be betting because I have all my futures on the Colts and I could see them losing week 1 and that wouldn't change my mind because I actually really like the Texans too. To me, that's the best game. Colts, Texans, love both quarterbacks. If you told me I only was allowed to watch one game on Sunday, it'd be that one. I think it's a 50-50 game. Really hard to predict. Extremely exciting. I love the Colts this year. Where are you at with that game, Colts Texans?
When I was looking at the odds, I was a little surprised to see Texans in the -100s for the game because they got so much better offensively. Like a lot of people are big on like a CJ Stroud sophomore slump season. I've heard it a bunch wherever I go. People are kind of trying to like make it happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's got too much talent on this team to like take a massive step down in year 2. And I do think Anthony Richardson's great. He's got a bunch of weapons. Jonathan Taylor's phenomenal. But I think the Texans were still better last year, and I think they're going to just be better than the Colts again this year.
It's definitely going to be a great game. All right, why are the Raiders only getting 3 points? The Chargers are going to win this game. Like the Raiders aren't going to score. The Chargers are going to run the ball right down the field. I don't see it, but this feels like the Dolphins game. Like, why isn't a 6-point spread? Am I missing something with Gardner Minshew? Because I thought
No.
I thought that was the Shane Steichen team last year, not the Gardner Minshew team. I'm really low on the Raiders, but I think they're 7.5 total wins. They're only getting 3 points. I know the Chargers roster, we talked about this last week. I know it's not the best roster. I totally get that, but their top 5 coaching staff, Jesse Minter as a defensive coordinator, is a gigantic upgrade. And the team's they're gonna kick the Raiders' ass. Now I know that it's not a home game. If anything, it's probably a road game, and the Raiders will have more fans in Southern California than the freaking Chargers. But go ahead.
I mean, maybe they're just thinking Antonio Pierce is going to come out, get them excited. They're going to stop them on defense. But, well, how many points are they giving?
Only 3 points.
I don't really know. That's kind of ridiculous because, like, I don't really know with 3 points. Like,
I try. So whenever this happens, what was the game that happened? What was the game? Crap, I'm gonna forget now. But whenever their line is so far off, and I feel like I have done the work on it, it's really hard for me to be like, am I just right and they're wrong? Because I normally want to be like, I'm missing something. And my rule is, if you do the work, sometimes they're just off on something, especially early in the season. The Chargers only won 5 games last year. So even though there's some hype around it, who knows exactly how they calculated the odds to get to that point. But I really like the Chargers. My favorite play, I think I can say this, my favorite play, at least for the first half, I'm going to double check the number. I don't know how the Broncos are scoring in Seattle. That Seattle defense is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
So much talent. Pete Carroll was really a disaster last year. He's had a great career, but that Seahawks team is full of talent. They're going to face Bo Nix. It's the worst stadium to play in an outdoor stadium. It's going to be so loud. I don't know if the Seahawks cover 6. I think they do, but the Broncos are not going to score. I don't see it. I love the Seahawks this year.
No, I think Seahawks defensive coach and like probably one of the best defensive coaches out there right now. I'm good. I feel bad for Bo Nix because it's not the situation you want to start your first NFL game off in. And I do think the Seahawks are going to score enough. I have a friend that's a Seahawks fan. He's complained all season long about the Seahawks play calling, the game plan on offense, but ultimately I think it's going to be enough to cover what 7.
Yeah, so it's 6 points. The reason I love the Seahawks so much is they got the coach McDonald, the defensive coordinator from the Ravens, but they're going to run the team the same way the Ravens ran their team last year, which is McDonald runs the defense and Monken runs the offense. They signed Washington's offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, I think is his name, and they had basically it's like the Dolphins light as far as the motion is concerned. It's a ton of motion. He's got his own way of doing things, and McDonald doesn't have the ego. He doesn't care. So he just said, you can run the offense. I think that is the best dynamic in football. It's very rare to get the Bill Belichick type. I think it's just much better to have a collaborative process and say, you know what, we're going to have some guy run the offense, some guy run the defense, and that's that. So I really like the makeup of the Seahawks team. I'm staying away from Commanders, Buccaneers because it's impossible for me to judge Jaden Daniels. Just the way we talked about McDonald, Todd Bowles is right there too. So it's going to be, he gets all off season to prepare. I'm going to let that go. The Bucks, Commanders, the Cowboys, Browns. It feels like everyone wants to bet on that game because that's, the main game in the 4:00 window. Brady will be calling that game. You can't really find too many people that are high on the Browns or the Cowboys. Both have had kind of weird off seasons. I really think this Browns team is destined to blow up. I just think they have so much bad karma now that Nick Chubb's not going to be there. I know what's his name, Ford is solid, but he also was solid last year when no one had any tape on him. Browns are favored by 2.5. I know more public money, if you will, because people like to bet the Cowboys. And so the fact that they're making it easy for you to take the Cowboys is a little bit of a red flag, but I'm not taking the Browns. I don't know if I'll pull the trigger on the Cowboys. What are your thoughts on that game?
The Cowboys always feel like they start the year hot, and the Browns have a tough defense. Like, it's a really good defense, but again, I think it should be the Cowboys to win the game. Like, I feel like they should be the favorites. Just they're old in a lot of positions, but the defense should still be pretty solid. You do lose Dan Quinn, that's a loss, but I feel like they should still be able to put it together. I think the reason they're probably underdogs is there's so many question marks on both sides of the ball. With CeeDee Lamb, with a new defensive coordinator coming in. It's a weird situation. So maybe that's why they're underdogs, but I think they're still probably the better team.
I think Zeke's going to have a good bounce back year. One of the things I look for when I'm evaluating each team and why I'm a little hesitant on the Browns is I always like to look at when it's 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. Like, that's where the games are won. If you get less than 3rd and 4, you have a lot of options. It's hard for the defense. Anything above 3rd and 7, It's really hard because there's so many pass rushers. But when that's like that third and manageable, and you're like, man, what's the hierarchy of who our best players are? So the Cowboys on 3rd and 7, the ball goes to CeeDee Lamb, and then Ferguson's the next guy. Ferguson accepts it, Lamb accepts it, so it works. For the Browns, I think Amari Cooper's like, the ball's going to me. And Njoku's like, I think the ball's going to me. And Deshaun Watson isn't good enough to just get the ball to who's open. And I don't like that dynamic. It's the same, it's the same fear I had with the Ravens. I don't know if Zay Flowers is on board with being the third option. To me, on 3rd and 6, the ball goes to Andrews or it goes to Likely. Then it goes to Flowers. But if Flowers doesn't see it that way, it's like, hey, man, I'm trying to get paid like Hollywood was trying to get paid. That's where it becomes like, I don't know if I want to be the number 1 receiver on the Ravens. So when I'm looking at each team, that's why I love the Dolphins this year, because it's like, oh, we know who the best player is. That's obvious. So that's mainly my hesitation on the Browns is I love their tight end. I actually think they would have been better off just getting rid of Cooper and doubling down on running the ball. I fear for the Browns on 3rd and 6. They're like, all right, we'll let Watson kind of pick apart the defense, see what he can do. And I think he's done. I don't think we'll be able to fully appreciate how much of a disaster he's been until like the end of this year. The Browns haven't had a 1st-round draft pick, I don't think, in like 50 years. Like, they don't have any picks. I don't know. They're a Myles Garrett injury away on defense from being an average defense. And then my last point on the stupid Browns is, what the hell did they do against the Texans last year? Like, in the playoffs, they like the Texans couldn't move against the Ravens, but against the Browns, they scored 70 points.
At will. It was completely at will against the Browns. That was, oh, God. I remember where I was, like, when I checked the score of that game, and I was like, oh, my God, what's happening here? Like,
obviously, because Flacco was making some big plays. I'm like, oh, they're going to come back if they could just get one stop. But the Texans, no, they went right down the field. Now, the counter argument is that was in the dome. The Browns are much better at home, blah, blah, blah. We'll see. I'm not a big fan of Cleveland this year. And I don't know if I want to bet Dallas or the Commanders to win the division, but I don't think it's the Eagles.
The Commanders have good money on it. I've seen it a lot. It's the more I see it, the more I think about it. It's money-wise, it's kind of value if you just want to put like a little bit of money on it. Like, it pays out like, I'd say pretty fair value for like the kind of risk you're taking, and it's plausible. So it's not a terrible bet.
I like the dynamic. They have the same dynamic of Seattle, which is head coach Dan Quinn, defensive guy, but we're going to turn it over to Kingsbury. He gets to run the offense. Kingsbury was very instrumental in choosing Jaden Daniels. They could have picked Drake May if they wanted. They could have picked Bo Nix. Kingsbury is really good at running the football. It's funny. I'm going to talk about this either tomorrow or Thursday, but I've been reading so much about how there's going to be a lot more running this year. NFL is always evolving, and once you think you know what's happening with these short passing games, the defenses make adjustments. And last year, I think more teams are going to run the ball this year, and I think the Commanders are going to be one of those teams. Daniels, that RPO, it's a effing nightmare. That RPO, if Lamar wants to run it, they're not going to be able to stop it. It's just whether or not he feels like running it. I wish we had Derrick Henry before Lamar got paid, but
Derrick Henry last year on that Ravens team probably takes it home. It probably takes it home.
It's because you need somebody that basically can stand up to the coaching staff. We talked about who the best player is, and there was nobody, including Lamar, who was able to yell at Monk, be like, I think we should just kind of run the ball at the middle a few times. Like, let's see if they can actually stop it before we keep throwing the ball on 1st down. And Henry is standing there with these big, broad shoulders like, hello. But Gus Edwards is like, yeah, I'm Gus Edwards. Like, if you want to give me the ball, I'll do well. But Derrick Henry's like, give me the effing ball. I got 3 years left, and then I'm retiring, and I need to win a Super Bowl. So the Ravens are either going to win the Super Bowl this year, or they're only going to win 7 games, and it's going to be a nightmare because they're not going to get to the playoffs and lose. I think they're going to get there, and you can't stop Henry and Lamar if they're committed to that RPO. But it's a long season. It's a lot of hits. So I'm not sure. I'm just not. I want the Ravens. Look, last point on the Ravens. I don't know if anybody, I'm sure people know this, but I don't know if you know this, but we win every 12 years. We won in 2000. Like, we won the Super Bowl.
Oh, my God.
We won the Super Bowl in 2013. And here we are, 2025.
It's due.
And I don't know if you know this, but 2000, the year before we won the last Super Bowl, we lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship. Cundiff missed the field goal. It felt like the same thing. Like, oh, damn, that was the window. They lost. Then they came back, and that's when the Mile High Miracle. So anyway, speak that into existence. All right, this was fun. Good. Rams Lions. I wanted to end with that. I went through all the games. The Rams Lions. I wanted to finish this way because we'll make Super Bowl predictions. I'm just whatever. I'm putting the Ravens in the Super Bowl because it'll make me feel better. It's either the Ravens or the Chiefs. I don't see it any other way. So
it's not. Niners could maybe sneak one by. I doubt it. It's probably Ravens or Chiefs.
So I'm going to say Ravens, Chiefs. And then the NFC, it sounds kind of funny, but I feel like the two best teams are playing on Sunday night. I like the Lions. I like the Rams. I'm high on the Seahawks, but I think the Seahawks are a notch below the Rams and the Lions. And I think those are the two best teams. I think the Niners have too many things going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if these two teams played each other again in the NFC Championship. You can make the argument that last year that playoff game was the best playoff game out of all of them, was that Rams-Lions game. I love Cooper Kupp coming back. Do you have thoughts on this game? That's Lions are favored by 3.5.
It's a complete toss-up. It can go either way. They're both really good teams. Lions play teams close. Rams have the ability to play teams close. I feels like last year was kind of a down year for them. There's still a bunch of talent there. Stafford is still a really good quarterback. And they still have Puka, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams is a really good running back. So I think they can score. This year's the Lions are really good. Like Amon-Ra, Laporta, Goff, Gibbs is a year older. Monty's still there. Like, they're talented. I expect Jameson Williams to have a really good season when he can finally get in the swing of things.
Is there any thought that now that we have film on the Lions offense, and Goff is not super dynamic, that maybe they'll be able to pick up? Because if you watch last year, a lot of guys are wide open. Goff played well, but I wonder if I don't know. I'm wondering if there's a little bit of regression with their offense.
I think the wrinkle is how they're going to use Jahmyr Gibbs this year. If they go to Jahmyr Gibbs more primary and start giving him more carries per game, it changes the offense. It changes it just a little bit that I think it will confuse defensive coordinators enough that they can try and reconstruct a passing game that is just similar but not exactly identical to what they did last year. I think it's very possible that they can get that going.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think I'm going to put some money. I'm going to finalize my bets, but I think the more that we talk, I like putting money down on the Rams. I think losing Aaron Donald in a weird way will bring out the best of the rest of the defense. It's a great motivator. Now there's more money available. It's easy to say, hey, nobody on the defense has gotten paid. If you guys want to get paid, they just traded Ernest Jones to the Titans because he wanted to get paid. So they really need the younger guys on the defense to step up. But I think they're going to be playing with the lead a lot. And when that's the case, it makes average pass rushers turn into great pass rushers. Once that's what happened to the Ravens last year. Van Noy and Clowney look like Pro Bowlers because we're winning the whole time. So, all right. Well, JMart, this was great. I know I kept you an extra few minutes. Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah, let's find a way. You went 1-1 last week, just getting yourself started. So there's no college football because they didn't want to compete with the Ravens Chiefs. So there's no games on Thursday. Starting the following Thursday, there'll be games. We'll never have a break. But this week, no college football until Saturday. Whenever you have your picks, you'll send them over.
Yeah.
NFL, we'll get started on Thursday. And that's about it. So unless you got anything else, I'm going to let you roll.
No, I think it's good. I think we're good. Yeah.
Sweet. Hope everybody has a good day. I know I didn't do any recap on the Orioles. I'm just happy that they won 13-3. Is it weird? This is going to sound a little strange. We won 13-3 and we had 18 hits. But I'm telling you, if you poll the fan base, it's we still didn't play well yesterday because we should have had 25 runs. It's the Orioles are driving everybody crazy, present company included. But it was a nice win yesterday. And as I mentioned to everybody, in case you didn't listen, I'll just wrap up this podcast by saying I made the decision just to leave these Padres alone. I didn't like last week. I didn't have fun doing it. And yeah, I'm going to go back to thinking about if I want to do baseball next season. But the reality is it's really hard to bet every single day on baseball unless you're fully engulfed in all the teams. And I think just following one team is helpful. But yeah, I felt like I was guessing too much last week and got a little unlucky. So that's why there's no Padres bets, and there won't be. Just going to fully focus here on football and hope that we can point people in the right direction. With that being said, If this is the first podcast you've listened to in a little while, if you have any questions going into football season, just reach out to me, thebettingheads@gmail.com, and the phone number is always there. You can text or call. JMart, I will see you next week. Have a great week, man, and good luck to everybody. I'll see you guys in the morning.
See y'all.